They found the first assassin face down in the koi pond at 2:47 a.m., unconscious but breathing, his $10,000 suit soaked through, and his custom Glock floating beside him like a child's toy. The second and third were zip-tied back-to-back in the wine cellar, one with a shattered kneecap, the other mumbling incoherently from the precision strike that had temporarily erased his ability to form sentences. By the time the sun rose over Seoul's skyline, 15 of Asia's most feared contract killers would be scattered across the grounds of the Serpent's Den, all alive, all humiliated, all neutralized by a woman the Korean Mafia had mocked as their boss's biggest mistake. But Kang Min-jun wasn't laughing when he hired her. He was dying. At 28 years old, Min-jun was the youngest Mafia boss in Seoul's blood-soaked history. Devastatingly handsome with sharp features that belonged on billboards rather than wanted posters, he built the Black Serpent Syndicate into an empire that made politicians sweat and rival families think twice. He had everything: power, wealth, respect, and a face that made women forget he was one of the most dangerous men in Asia. Then someone put a $50 million bounty on his head, and suddenly, loyalty became a commodity he could no longer afford. 3 assassination attempts in 3 weeks. His food taster died, choking on poison wine. A car bomb missed him by seconds. A sniper's bullet passed so close he felt the heat against his cheek. His security chief vanished. His trusted lieutenant was found floating in the Han River. His own family stopped answering his calls. The hunter had become the hunted, and Min-jun was running out of time and options. That's when Zara Williams walked into his life, a Black American woman with braided hair, combat boots, and eyes that held secrets darker than Seoul's underworld. She had no connections to his world, no allegiances to his enemies, and a military record so classified that entire pages were redacted in black ink. She was the last person anyone expected to see standing between a Korean Mafia boss and certain death. Min-jun thought hiring her was an act of desperation. His men thought it was suicide. The 15 assassins who came for him on the night of the full moon thought it would be easy. They were all wrong. What none of them knew was that Zara Williams wasn't just a bodyguard looking for work. She was a ghost with her own demons, her own vendetta, and a very personal reason for accepting a job that should have gotten her killed. The man orchestrating the siege wasn't just Min-jun's enemy. He was hers too. Before we dive into this powerful story, I want to be upfront. This video took over 12 hours of research, writing, and editing to create. If you value the hard work behind these stories, hitting that subscribe button would mean so much. Now, let's get started. They found the first assassin face down in the koi pond at 2:47 a.m., unconscious but breathing, his $10,000 suit soaked through, and his custom Glock floating beside him like a child's toy. The second and third were zip-tied back-to-back in the wine cellar, one with a shattered kneecap, the other mumbling incoherently from the precision strike that had temporarily erased his ability to form sentences. By the time the sun rose over Seoul's skyline, 15 of Asia's most feared contract killers would be scattered across the grounds of the Serpent's Den, all alive, all humiliated, all neutralized by a woman the Korean Mafia had mocked as their boss's biggest mistake. But Kang Min-jun wasn't laughing when he hired her. He was dying. At 28 years old, Min-jun was the youngest Mafia boss in Seoul's blood-soaked history. Devastatingly handsome with sharp features that belonged on billboards rather than wanted posters, he built the Black Serpent Syndicate into an empire that made politicians sweat and rival families think twice. He had everything: power, wealth, respect, and a face that made women forget he was one of the most dangerous men in Asia. Then someone put a $50 million bounty on his head, and suddenly, loyalty became a commodity he could no longer afford. 3 assassination attempts in 3 weeks. His food taster died, choking on poison wine. A car bomb missed him by seconds. A sniper's bullet passed so close he felt the heat against his cheek. His security chief vanished. His trusted lieutenant was found floating in the Han River. His own family stopped answering his calls. The hunter had become the hunted, and Min-jun was running out of time and options. That's when Zara Williams walked into his life, a Black American woman with braided hair, combat boots, and eyes that held secrets darker than Seoul's underworld. She had no connections to his world, no allegiances to his enemies, and a military record so classified that entire pages were redacted in black ink. She was the last person anyone expected to see standing between a Korean mafia boss and certain death. Min-jun thought hiring her was an act of desperation. His men thought it was suicide. The 15 assassins who came for him on the night of the full moon thought it would be easy. They were all wrong. What none of them knew was that Zara Williams wasn't just a bodyguard looking for work. She was a ghost with her own demons, her own vendetta, and a very personal reason for accepting a job that should have gotten her killed. The man orchestrating the siege wasn't just Min-jun's enemy. He was hers too. Before we dive into this powerful story, I want to be upfront. This video took over 12 hours of research, writing, and editing to create. If you value the hard work behind these stories, hitting that subscribe button would mean so much. Now, let's get started. The first 48 hours with Zara Williams taught Kang Min-jun 3 critical lessons. First, she never slept. Second, she trusted absolutely no one, including him. And third, hiring her wasn't his biggest mistake. His biggest mistake was thinking he could control what happened next. Zara moved through the serpent's den like a ghost studying a haunted house. She memorized every entrance, every exit, every blind spot, and every vulnerability. She cataloged the guards who took their jobs seriously and the ones who scrolled through their phones during patrol. She noted which doors had been recently oiled and which hinges creaked. She observed everything and said almost nothing. Min-jun's remaining security team hated her immediately. "Boss, this is insane," his head of security, Taeyong, complained during the first morning briefing. "We don't know this woman. She could be working for whoever's trying to kill you." Zara didn't even look up from the compound blueprints she was studying. "If I wanted him dead, Taeyong, you'd have found him with a pillow over his face this morning. Untraceable.
Clean.
Professional. The fact that he's breathing means I'm on his side." The room went silent. Min-jun noticed Taeyong's hand drift toward his concealed weapon. He also noticed Zara noticed and didn't seem concerned. "Everybody out," Min-jun ordered. "Except you, Taeyong. We need to talk about loyalty." After the others filed out, Min-jun leaned back in his leather chair, studying his head of security with the cold calculation that had made him a boss at 28. "You've been with me for 3 years. My father trusted your father. So tell me, honestly, why do you hate her so much?" Taeyong's jaw clenched. "She's an outsider. She doesn't understand our world, our codes, our codes." Min-jun's laugh was sharp. "3 of my own men tried to poison me. 2 more sold my schedule to a sniper. Our codes are what's trying to get me killed. Then let us handle it our way. We don't need some American woman. I'm not asking for your approval." Min-jun stood, buttoning his suit jacket with deliberate precision. "I'm telling you how this works now. Zara stays. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave with a severance package and my blessing. Anyone who stays and undermines her will leave in a body bag. Clear?" Taeyong's face flushed red, but he nodded. Min-jun knew he'd just made another enemy. The question was whether Taeyong was already one before this conversation started. That night, Min-jun found Zara on the rooftop garden, invisible in the shadows until she wanted to be seen. Seoul's skyline glittered below them like scattered diamonds, beautiful and dangerous. "You should be sleeping," he said, keeping his distance. Something about her demanded personal space. "Sleep is a luxury for people who don't have enemies planning their murder." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "You have 17 potential entry points to this compound. 12 are actively monitored. 5 are not. I pay for the best security in Seoul. You pay for mediocre security with expensive equipment." Zara finally turned to face him. "There's a blind spot in your eastern perimeter where the cameras overlap. The drainage tunnel under the wine cellar hasn't been checked in weeks. The service entrance uses a lock that can be picked in 45 seconds. Min-jun felt his confidence crack slightly. "And you know this after 2 days? I know this after 2 hours. I spent the rest of the time identifying which of your people will betray you next." The casual way she said it made his blood run cold. Which ones? Zara listed 3 names. One was a guard Min-jun barely knew. One was a driver who'd been with the family for 5 years. And one was Taeyong. You're wrong about Taeyong, Min-jun said, but his voice lacked conviction. Maybe. Zara turned back to the skyline. But he's been making encrypted phone calls at 2 a.m. every night. He's transferred money to an offshore account 3 times this week. And he asked about your schedule for the next full moon specifically. The full moon is in 6 days. Min-jun felt the world tilt slightly. How do you know all this? Because surveillance goes both ways, Mr. Kang. You hired me to keep you alive. That means knowing everything and trusting nothing. For a long moment, they stood in silence. Then Min-jun asked the question that had been haunting him since Ji-won first showed him Zara's file. Why did you really take this job? Don't tell me it's the money. Someone with your skills could work anywhere. Zara's expression shifted. Just for a second, a crack in the armor revealed something raw underneath. The man who orchestrated the bounty on your head. His name is Colonel Marcus Brentwood. 5 years ago, he was my commanding officer. 3 years ago, he framed me for a massacre I tried to prevent. He destroyed my career, my reputation, my life. And now he's trying to kill you because your shipping routes transport more than luxury cars and electronics. They transport intelligence assets for black ops programs. You're a liability he needs eliminated, which means keeping you alive is the best way to draw him out of the shadows. Min-jun stared at her. So I'm bait. We're both bait, Zara corrected. The difference is, I know how to survive the trap. The next 3 days blurred together in a haze of paranoia and preparation. Zara transformed the Serpent's Den from a fortress into a labyrinth designed to funnel attackers exactly where she wanted them. She installed pressure sensors beneath floorboards. She repositioned cameras to eliminate blind spots. She laid traps that would incapacitate without killing because, as she explained, dead men can't reveal who hired them. Min-jun watched her work with growing fascination. She moved with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 100 times before, every motion precise, every decision calculated. But there were moments, brief flashes, when he'd catch her staring at nothing, eyes haunted by ghosts only she could see. One afternoon, he found her in the training room, methodically destroying a punching bag with combinations that would have killed a human being. Who are you really fighting? He asked. Zara didn't stop. Didn't look at him. Everyone I couldn't save. Everyone I was ordered to kill. Everyone who trusted the wrong person at the wrong time. And me? Do you trust me? Now she stopped. Turned. Her face was covered in sweat, her knuckles raw and bleeding. I don't trust anyone, Min-jun. But I respect what you've built. You're a criminal, sure. But you have codes. Lines you won't cross. Brentwood has no lines. He'll burn everything to achieve his objectives. That's the difference between you. It was the first time she'd used his first name. Something shifted between them in that moment. Not quite trust, but maybe the foundation it could be built on. Meanwhile, tension in the household reached a breaking point. Ji-won, Min-jun's sister, cornered Zara in the hallway outside the war room. My brother is falling for you, Ji-won said bluntly. I can see it. So can everyone else. Zara's expression remained neutral. Your brother is projecting safety onto the person keeping him alive. It's a common psychological response to trauma. Don't patronize me with psychology. Ji-won stepped closer, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I've spent my entire life protecting him. I won't let some outsider with a vendetta put him in more danger than he's already in. Then help me keep him alive. Zara met her eyes, without flinching. Because I need your help, Ji-won. There's someone in this house feeding information to Brentwood. Someone close to your brother. And I can't figure out who without understanding the family dynamics I'm not part of. Ji-won studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, her posture relaxed. Taeyong. It's Taeyong, isn't it? Probably. But I need proof before we move. And I need to know, is there anyone else Min-jun trusts that I should be watching? Ji-won's pause lasted a heartbeat too long. My brother trusts me completely, she finally said. Sometimes I wish he didn't. Before Zara could ask what that meant, alarms began blaring throughout the compound. At this point, everything is about to change. But first, are you Team Zara, the ghost with nothing to lose, or Team Min-jun, the boss learning that power can't protect you from everything? Let me know in the comments, because what happens next will shock you. The attack came 3 days before the full moon. Not the main assault, Zara knew that was still coming. This was a probe. A test. 3 men breached the eastern perimeter at 11:47 p.m., exactly where Zara had predicted. She was waiting. The first attacker went down silently, struck in the nerve cluster behind his ear. The second managed to draw his weapon before Zara dislocated his shoulder with surgical precision. The third got off a single shot, which Zara had anticipated, positioned herself so the bullet buried itself in a reinforced concrete pillar. 90 seconds. 3 attackers neutralized. 0 casualties. Min-jun arrived as Zara was zip-tying the unconscious men. Who sent you? He demanded, kicking the one still conscious. Don't, Zara said sharply. Anger makes people stupid. Let me handle this. What happened next, Min-jun would remember for the rest of his life. Zara crouched beside the conscious attacker, her voice dropping to something cold and clinical. She didn't threaten, didn't raise her voice. She simply explained, in excruciating detail, the various ways she could extract information without leaving marks, without killing, without mercy. The man broke in less than 5 minutes. Brentwood, he gasped. Colonel Brentwood hired us. Said you'd be an easy target. Said your bodyguard was all for show. Zara smiled, a predator's smile that made Min-jun's skin crawl. Tell the colonel I'm not for show. Tell him I'm the nightmare he created. And tell him I'm waiting. After the attackers were secured in the compound's holding cells, Min-jun found Zara cleaning blood off her knuckles in the bathroom. You scared him more than I ever could. Fear is a tool, Zara replied, not looking up. The question is whether you're comfortable with how I use it. Min-jun stepped closer, close enough to see the scars on her hands, the tension in her shoulders, the weight she carried like armor. I'm comfortable with whatever keeps me alive long enough to find out who betrayed me. Zara finally looked up, meeting his eyes in the mirror. For just a moment, her guard dropped. This life you've built, the power, the empire, the fear, does it ever feel like enough? The question caught him off guard. What do you mean? I mean, when you close your eyes at night, do you see the person you wanted to become? Or just the monster you had to be? Min-jun had no answer, because the truth was, he'd stopped asking himself that question years ago. Maybe we're both running from the same thing. Outside, the moon continued its inexorable climb toward fullness. 3 days remained. 3 days before 15 assassins would descend on the Serpent's Denver. 3 days before Zara Williams would show Seoul's underworld exactly why underestimating her was the last mistake they'd ever make. And 3 days before Kang Min-jun would learn that sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is the one you're starting to trust. The siege was coming. The only question was who would survive it. 2 days before the full moon, Kang Min-jun made a decision that would change everything. He called a family meeting. Not just his inner circle, but everyone, every lieutenant, every trusted advisor, every blood relative who had a stake in the Black Serpent Syndicate. Zara advised against it. Too many variables. Too many potential threats in one room. But Min-jun insisted. If there's a traitor in my house, he said, I want to look them in the eye when I find them. The conference room felt like a tomb. 23 people sat around the massive oak table, faces ranging from concerned to hostile. Taeyong sat directly across from Min-jun, arms crossed, jaw tight. Ji-won positioned herself at her brother's right hand, as always. And Zara stood in the corner, a shadow with eyes that missed nothing. Min-jun rose, and the room fell silent. Someone in this room wants me dead, he began, voice steady. Someone has been feeding information to my enemies. Someone has decided that their ambition or their fear is worth more than the family we've built together. He let the words hang in the air, watched faces, studied reactions. I'm not asking for confessions. I'm not offering mercy. I'm simply telling you that in 2 days, when they come for me, everyone in this compound will have a choice. Stand with me, or stand aside. But know this. His voice dropped to something darker. If you stand aside, you'd better run far and fast. Because when this is over, when I've survived what's coming, I will find everyone who betrayed me. And I will make examples that Seoul will remember for generations. Taeyong stood abruptly. This is paranoia talking. We're your security team. We've bled for you. And now you're threatening us because some American mercenary whispered suspicions in your ear? Sit down, Taeyong. Ji-won said quietly.
No.
I won't sit while he accuses loyal men of treason. Taeyong's hand moved toward his weapon. Maybe the real threat isn't inside this house. Maybe it walked through our front door wearing combat boots and carrying a classified file. He never finished the sentence. Zara moved like lightning. One moment she was in the corner. The next, Taeyong was face down on the conference table, arm hyperextended behind his back, Zara's knee pressed between his shoulder blades. Check his left ankle, Zara said calmly. There's a backup weapon. And his jacket pocket. You'll find a phone he hasn't declared to security. Min-jun nodded to one of his men. Sure enough, they found both items exactly where Zara said they'd be. The phone's recent calls were all to encrypted numbers. The last text message, sent just 20 minutes ago, contained 2 words, meeting confirmed. The room exploded into chaos. Accusations flew. Weapons were drawn. And through it all, Taeyong struggled uselessly against Zara's iron grip. I'm loyal, he screamed. I'm trying to protect him from you. You don't know what she is. She's not here to save him. She's here to destroy everything. Min-jun's expression remained carved from ice. Take him to the holding cells. And check everyone's phones. Anyone with encrypted communications they can't explain joins him. By the time the purge ended, 4 more men had been detained. 4 people Min-jun had trusted. 4 potential traitors or 4 innocent men caught in paranoia's crossfire. The line between security and tyranny had never felt thinner. After the others dispersed, Ji-won approached Zara in the hallway. Her face was pale, hands trembling slightly. You enjoyed that, Ji-won said. Taking down Taeyong in front of everyone. Proving your worth. Zara met her gaze, without flinching. I did what was necessary. Your brother needed to see who his real enemies are. And what about you? Are you his real enemy? The question hung between them like a knife blade. Zara could have deflected, could have offered reassurances. Instead, she chose honesty. I'm the nightmare your brother hired to fight his nightmares. Whether that makes me friend or enemy depends entirely on whether he survives the next 2 days. Ji-won stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. My brother is falling in love with you. I can see it in the way he looks at you, the way he listens when you speak. It's dangerous. For him and for you. Love is a luxury neither of us can afford right now. That's not a denial. Zara turned to walk away, then paused. Ji-won, if something happens to me during the attack, there's a file in my room. Everything I know about Brentwood, his operations, his weaknesses. Make sure Min-jun gets it. Make sure he knows how to end this even if I can't. Ji-won's eyes widened. You think you might not survive? I think 15 assassins are coming and I'm one person. Math matters, even for ghosts. That night, unable to sleep despite exhaustion that went bone deep, Min-jun found himself drawn to Zara's quarters. He knocked softly. She opened the door immediately, fully dressed, weapons within reach. Always ready. Couldn't sleep, she asked. Kept seeing Taeyong's face. The betrayal in his eyes when I had him arrested. What if he was telling the truth? What if he really was loyal and I just destroyed an innocent man? Zara stepped aside, letting him enter. Her room was Spartan, no decorations, no personal items, just tactical gear and a laptop displaying security feeds. Innocent men don't carry burner phones with encrypted communications, she said. But even if I'm wrong, you made the right call. In war, sometimes you have to choose between being kind and being alive. Is that what this is? War. It's always been war, Min-jun. You just had the luxury of pretending it wasn't. Zara moved to the window, staring out at the city lights. The life you've built, it's impressive.
Terrifying.
But impressive. You took nothing and made it into an empire. That takes vision, ruthlessness, sacrifice. And what did you take nothing and make it into? She laughed, a sound without humor. A body count, a classified file, a weapon someone else pointed and fired until I finally had the courage to refuse. Min-jun joined her at the window. They stood close enough that he could smell gun oil and something floral, soap, maybe, or shampoo. Human scents beneath the warrior exterior. After this is over, he said carefully, after we survive whatever's coming, what happens to you? I disappear. Same as I've always done. Ghost in, ghost out. What if you didn't have to disappear? What if there was a reason to stay? Zara finally turned to look at him. Really look at him. Not as a client or a mission, but as a man. And Min-jun saw something flicker in her eyes. Want, maybe, or the memory of what wanting used to feel like before the military broke that part of her. Don't, she said softly. Don't make this complicated. It's already complicated. Then don't make it impossible. But Min-jun was done pretending. Done hiding behind walls built from fear and control. He reached out, fingers brushing her jaw, and for a moment she allowed it. For a moment, the warrior facade cracked and revealed the woman underneath, scarred, exhausted, desperate for something that didn't involve violence or survival. Then her training kicked in. She stepped back, creating distance, rebuilding walls. The attack comes tomorrow night, she said, voice steady again. Professional. I need you focused. Not distracted by things that can't happen. Can't or shouldn't? Does it matter? The result is the same. Min-jun wanted to argue. Wanted to push past her defenses the way she'd pushed past his. But he recognized the look in her eyes. She was right. Focus meant survival. Distraction meant death. I should go, he said.
Yes.
You should. But neither of them moved. Not for a long moment. Not until the weight of what couldn't be said became too heavy to bear. I need to pause here because what you're about to witness changed everything. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between safety and doing what's right? Share your story below. The next morning brought new intelligence that shattered whatever fragile equilibrium they'd maintained. One of the detained men, not Taeyong, but a guard named Sung-ho, finally broke during interrogation. What he revealed made Zara's blood run cold. The attack isn't just about killing Min-jun, Sung-ho gasped, face bruised from questioning. It's about destroying the entire compound. Brentwood wants everyone dead. Every witness. Every connection. He's planning to burn the Serpent's Den to the ground with everyone inside. Ji-won, who'd been observing the interrogation, went pale. There are 23 people in this compound. Innocent staff.
Cooks.
Cleaners. Brentwood doesn't see innocence, Zara said grimly. He sees loose ends. And he's decided to tie them all off permanently. Min-jun made another impossible decision. He gave every staff member, everyone not essential to defense, the option to leave immediately with generous severance and his blessing. No questions asked. No judgment. 17 people took the offer. 6 stayed. Loyalty or fatalism? Min-jun couldn't tell which. That afternoon, Zara did something she hadn't done in 3 years. She called in a favor from her past. A former teammate from her Black Ops days who'd also gone dark after the unit dissolved. His name was Marcus, not Brentwood, a different Marcus, one who'd chosen conscience over orders. The call was brief. Encrypted.
Desperate.
I need an exit strategy, Zara said. Multiple innocents at risk. Target is Colonel Brentwood. Can you provide air support if things go sideways? Marcus's voice crackled through the secure line. Zara, you know I can't officially. I'm not asking officially. I'm asking as the person who saved your life in Caracas. A long pause. Then, send me coordinates. I'll have a bird in the air. But if this goes bad, I was never there. Understood. And Marcus? Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Surviving tonight is going to take more than air support. It's going to take a miracle. Zara hung up and found Min-jun watching from the doorway. You have friends, he observed. I thought ghosts walked alone. Even ghosts need backup sometimes. Especially when they're protecting something worth saving. Is that what I am? Something worth saving? Zara holstered her phone, meeting his eyes. You're a criminal who employs thousands. A killer who builds schools. A monster who shows mercy when he doesn't have to. You're complicated, Min-jun. And maybe that's exactly what's worth fighting for. Not the saint or the sinner, but the human being caught between them. The words hit harder than any declaration of affection could have. Because they were true. Because she saw him. Not the boss, not the reputation, but the man underneath trying desperately to be better than his circumstances allowed. Whatever happens tonight, Min-jun said, I want you to know that hiring you was the best decision I've made in years. Not because you might keep me alive, but because you reminded me what it feels like to have someone give a damn about truth instead of image. Save the sentiment for after we survive, Zara replied. But she was smiling. Just slightly. Just enough. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, casting Seoul in shades of amber and blood, Zara completed her final preparations. Every trap was set. Every weapon checked. Every exit mapped. The Serpent's Den had been transformed from a fortress into a carefully orchestrated killing field designed to channel attackers exactly where she wanted them. Ji-won found her on the rooftop one last time, watching the sky darken. Do you really think we can win this? Ji-won asked. Win is relative. Survive is the goal. And yes, I think we can survive. But it's going to cost. These things always do. What will it cost you? Zara considered the question. Everything I've spent 3 years trying to forget. Because tonight I stop running from what I am. I stop pretending the weapon can become human again. I embrace the monster they made me into, one last time, so that maybe tomorrow I can finally put it to rest. And my brother? What does tonight cost him? His innocence, if he has any left. His illusions about loyalty and family. His belief that power can protect him from consequences. Zara turned to face Ji-won directly. But he'll survive. I'll make damn sure of that. Even if it kills me. Ji-won nodded slowly. I misjudged you. I thought you were just another mercenary. But you care. Maybe too much. Caring is what makes us human. The day we stop is the day we become the very things we're fighting against. The full moon rose over Seoul like a silver eye watching judgment unfold. In exactly 3 hours, 15 assassins would breach the perimeter. In exactly 3 hours, Zara Williams would become the nightmare Colonel Brentwood had created. And in exactly 3 hours, Kang Min-jun would learn whether trust in the most unexpected person was his salvation or his final mistake. The siege was no longer coming. It was here. The first breach came at 11:47 p.m., exactly when Zara predicted.
Silent.
Professional.
Deadly.
3 figures scaled the eastern wall using equipment that didn't trigger the standard alarms. Military-grade climbing gear. Night vision optics. Suppressed weapons. These weren't street thugs or hired muscle. These were operators.
Trained.
Experienced. Lethal. They made it exactly 17 feet into the compound before Zara's trap engaged. The pressure plate beneath the decorative gravel sent a signal. Concealed netting dropped from the trees. Electrified wire delivered 50,000 volts, not enough to kill, but enough to turn elite assassins into twitching, unconscious bodies in seconds. 3 down. 12 to go. East perimeter breach neutralized, Zara reported into her comm unit. Expect secondary teams within 90 seconds. Inside the safe room, Min-jun sat surrounded by monitors showing every angle of his compound. Ji-won stood beside him, weapon drawn, face pale but determined. The 6 remaining staff members huddled in the corner, eyes wide with terror. She's actually doing it, Ji-won whispered, watching Zara's heat signature move across the screens like a predator hunting prey. Did you doubt her? I doubted whether one person could stand against 15 trained killers. I'm starting to think I underestimated what she's capable of. Min-jun said nothing. Just watch the screens. Watched Zara become the weapon she'd spent 3 years trying to forget. The second team came from the north. 4 operators moving in diamond formation, covering angles, communicating through hand signals. Professional. Coordinated. Exactly what Zara expected. They breached through the servant's entrance, the one with the lock that could be picked in 45 seconds. What they didn't know was that Zara had spent 2 days modifying that entrance. The lock picked easily. Too easily. And the moment they pushed through the door, motion sensors triggered a cascade of events. Flashbang grenades concealed in the ceiling. Smoke canisters that filled the corridor. And Zara, waiting in the chaos she'd created, moving through the confusion like she could see through walls. The first operator went down with a strike to the solar plexus that collapsed his diaphragm. Can't fight if you can't breathe. The second took a knee strike that shattered his patella. Can't advance if you can't walk. The third and fourth reacted faster, weapons rising, but Zara was already moving, using the second man's body as a shield, redirecting their fire into each other's non-lethal zones. 4 minutes. 4 attackers neutralized. 0 fatalities. 7 down. 8 to go. She's not even breathing hard, one of Min-jun's security monitors reported, watching thermal imaging. Boss, what exactly did you hire? Min-jun remembered Zara's words from their first meeting. I don't stop bullets. I stop armies. He was starting to believe her. The third wave came with a different strategy. No stealth. No finesse. Pure, overwhelming force. 5 operators, full tactical gear, breaching charges on the main entrance. They blew the reinforced doors off their hinges and stormed in like they were raiding a terrorist compound. They made it exactly 12 feet before realizing their mistake. The main entrance wasn't defended because it was a kill box. Zara had spent an entire day turning that foyer into a tactical nightmare. Pressure plates under the marble floors. Tripwires at ankle and knee height. Concealed nets in the ceiling. And Zara herself, positioned in the balcony above with angles on every entry point. The explosion of the breaching charge triggered the first trap. Netting dropped, entangling 2 operators immediately. The remaining 3 tried to advance, but the pressure plates sent signals that released tear gas from concealed vents. Through the chaos, Zara descended like an avenging angel, night vision allowing her to see what they couldn't. 1 operator fell to a precision strike behind the ear. Another took a disabling blow to the nerve cluster in his thigh. The third managed to get off 3 shots, all missing as Zara twisted through the smoke like she was dancing with death itself. When the gas cleared, 5 more bodies lay unconscious on the marble floor. 12 down. 3 to go. But these last 3 were different. Zara could feel it the moment the compound went silent. No more breaches. No more frontal assaults. These final operators weren't coming in. They were waiting for her to come out. Zara. Min-jun's voice crackled in her earpiece. All perimeter sensors show negative. Where are they? They're not coming in, she replied, moving through shadows toward the rooftop access. They're going to try to burn us out or wait until dawn and engage at range with high-powered rifles. Smart, patient, professional. So, what do? I go hunting. That's suicide. You've neutralized 12 assassins. Let's call this a win and wait for authorities. The authorities won't get here in time. And Brentwood didn't send his best 3 operators to run away empty-handed. Zara checked her weapons, her gear, her resolve. This ends tonight. One way or another. Ji-won's voice cut into the comm channel. Zara, wait. There's something you need to know. About Taeyong. About what he said before you took him down. Not now, Ji-won. He said you're not here to save Min-jun. He said you're here to destroy everything. What did he mean? Zara hesitated. Just for a moment. He meant that Brentwood wants both Min-jun and me dead. That bringing us together was supposed to make us easier targets. That I walked into a trap designed specifically for me. And did you? Walk into a trap?
Yes.
But I knew it was a trap from the beginning. The difference is, I'm the one who decides how it ends. She cut the comm channel before anyone could argue. Before Min-jun could order her to stand down. Before her resolve could waver. The rooftop air was cold.
Clear.
The full moon illuminated Seoul like a stage waiting for the final act. Zara moved to the edge, scanning the adjacent buildings with night vision.
There.
3 heat signatures. 2 on the building to the east. 1 to the north. Sniper positions. Overlapping fields of fire. They were good.
But Zara had been trained by the best.
And sometimes the best way to win isn't to be better. It's to be crazier. She triggered the fire alarm in the adjacent building. Chaos erupted. People flooding into the streets. The snipers' clean shots compromised by civilians. Now they had a choice: maintain position and risk exposure, or relocate and lose their advantage. 2 chose to relocate. The one to the north held position, betting on his skills despite the complications. Fatal mistake. Zara crossed the gap between buildings using a zipline she'd installed 2 days ago, just in case. The northern sniper never saw her coming. One moment he was scanning for targets. The next, Zara's forearm was across his throat, her voice in his ear. "Where's Brentwood?" The sniper tried to resist. Trained to withstand interrogation. But Zara wasn't interrogating. She was explaining, in clinical detail, exactly how much pain she could inflict without killing. How many nerve clusters she knew. How many ways she could make the next 5 minutes feel like 5 hours. He broke in 90 seconds. "Brentwood's not here. He's never here. He sent us. Told us if we failed, he'd send more. And more after that. He said he'd burn down all of Seoul to get to you. That you took something from him he can never get back." What did I take? The sniper's laugh was bitter. His credibility. His career. His perfect record. You were supposed to die in that village. You were supposed to follow orders. Instead, you exposed what he made you do. Made all of us do. You're not just a target, Zara. You're proof that his methods create monsters instead of soldiers. Zara processed this. Every word confirmed what she'd suspected. Brentwood wasn't trying to kill her for revenge. He was trying to erase evidence of his crimes. Where are the other 2 snipers? They relocated to the western building. Top floor. But they've already called for backup. Another team is coming. Bigger. Meaner. You can't win this, Zara. No matter how many of us you take down, there's always more. Then I'll just have to remove the head of the snake. She zip-tied the sniper and moved toward the western building. 2 more operators. 2 more obstacles. Then she could focus on the real target. The tension here is unbelievable, but there's still one more twist coming. What do you think our protagonist should do? Wrong answers only in the comments. The western building entrance was locked. Zara picked it in 30 seconds. The stairwell was dark, silent. She moved like smoke, barely disturbing the air. 4th floor.
5th.
6th. On the 7th floor, she felt it, that electric charge in the air that comes before violence. The 2 remaining snipers weren't waiting on the roof. They were waiting here in the stairwell, setting their own trap. "We know you're coming, Williams," a voice called out. American accent. Southern drawl. "Colonel Brentwood sends his regards. Says you were always his favorite student. His greatest success. And his biggest failure." Zara didn't respond. Didn't give away her position. "He also said to tell you that the boy, Min-jun, he's already dead. There's a bomb in the compound. Set to detonate in exactly 4 minutes. You can try to fight us, or you can try to save him. But you can't do both." The words hit like physical blows.
A bomb.
4 minutes. Everything she'd done, everyone she'd protected, about to be erased in fire and rubble. "You're bluffing," Zara called out. "Am I?"
Check your comm channel.
"I think your boyfriend is starting to realize what's happening." Zara switched frequencies. Immediately heard chaos. Min-jun shouting orders. Ji-won screaming about smoke. The staff panicking. Not a bluff. A nightmare becoming real.
She had a choice.
Fight 2 trained operators in a confined space, which could take minutes she didn't have, or abandon the fight and try to save the people in the compound. Every instinct screamed to fight. To finish what she started. To prove she was better than her training, stronger than her programming. But then she thought about Min-jun. About his sister. About the 6 innocent people who'd chosen to stay because they believed she could protect them. Zara Williams made her choice.
She ran.
Not away from the fight. Towards something worth fighting for. Down the stairs, through the streets, across the compound perimeter. Her lungs burned. Her muscles screamed. But she pushed harder, faster, driven by the terrible knowledge that every second mattered. She burst through the compound entrance to find smoke pouring from the basement. Min-jun and Ji-won were trying to evacuate the staff, but the exits were blocked. The bomb, wherever it was, had been placed to maximize casualties and minimize escape routes. "Where's the bomb?" Zara shouted. "Basement level, near the gas lines." Min-jun yelled back. "We can't reach it. Too much smoke. Too much heat. The whole place is going to blow in." 2 minutes, Zara finished. She could see the timer in her mind. Could calculate the blast radius. Could measure the odds of survival. They were effectively zero. Unless. "Get everyone to the North Garden," Zara ordered.
Now. Don't argue.
"Don't wait. Run." "What are you?" "Run." The authority in her voice cut through panic. Min-jun grabbed his sister. Ji-won grabbed the staff. They ran. Zara descended into hell. The basement was an inferno. Smoke so thick she couldn't see. Heat so intense it felt like her skin was melting. She moved by memory, by training, by the desperate knowledge that failure meant death for everyone she'd sworn to protect. She found the bomb by its timer's glow. Military-grade C4. Professional detonation system. 90 seconds remaining. Zara had been trained in explosive ordnance disposal. But that training assumed proper tools, proper conditions, proper time. She had none of those. Just her hands, her knowledge, and 80 seconds to do the impossible. She started with the primary trigger. Traced wires in the smoke. Cut the obvious ones first. The timer kept counting. 60 seconds. The secondary trigger was hidden.
Clever.
Designed to detonate if someone tampered with the primary. Zara found it by touch, by instinct, by the bitter understanding that this was exactly the kind of trap Brentwood would set. 45 seconds. Her hands moved with precision born from years of training. Red wire, blue wire, green wire. Each cut a gamble. Each decision potentially her last. 30 seconds. The tertiary trigger revealed itself. A motion sensor. Move the bomb, and it detonates immediately. Leave it here, and everyone dies when the timer reaches 0. 20 seconds. Zara made her final calculation. Weighed odds. Assessed risks. Then did what she'd been trained never to do. She trusted her instincts over her training. She cut the green wire. The timer stopped at 7 seconds. The bomb didn't detonate. Zara collapsed against the basement wall, lungs burning, body shaking, alive by margins so thin they barely existed.
But alive.
And above her, in the North Garden, 16 people who had trusted a ghost to save them were still breathing. She'd done it. Against impossible odds, against overwhelming force, against every expectation. She'd kept them alive. Zara emerged from the basement looking like she'd fought her way through hell, because she had. Min-jun was there, waiting, and when he saw her, something in his carefully controlled expression shattered. He pulled her into his arms. Not as a boss embracing an employee, not as a client grateful to a bodyguard, but as a man holding on to someone who'd just become the most important person in his world. "You're insane," he whispered against her hair. "Completely, utterly insane." "I know," Zara replied, allowing herself this moment. This brief respite before reality crashed back in. "But I kept my promise. Everyone's alive." "Except the assassins," Ji-won observed, appearing beside them. 15 of them. All neutralized by one woman. Seoul's underworld is never going to believe this story. "They don't have to believe it," Min-jun said, finally releasing Zara. "They just have to remember it. Remember what happens when they underestimate the wrong person." Sirens wailed in the distance. Authorities responding to reports of explosions and gunfire. Zara knew what came next. Questions she couldn't answer. Investigations she couldn't participate in. A spotlight she couldn't afford. "I need to go," she said. "Stay," Min-jun countered. "Let me protect you for once. I have lawyers, resources, influence. I can make this go away. You can't make Brentwood go away. He's still out there. Still sending teams. This won't end until one of us is dead. Then let me help you end it. Partnership, remember? Your skills, my resources. Zara wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe that she could build something here beyond violence and survival. But she'd learned long ago that people like her didn't get happy endings. They got moments. Brief flashes of something almost like peace before the war started again. I'll come back, she promised. After I've dealt with Brentwood. After I've made sure he can never send anyone else. After. Min-jun kissed her. Cut off the words. The excuses. The walls she was already rebuilding. When he pulled back, his eyes held something Zara hadn't seen in years. Hope. Raw, terrifying, impossible hope. Come back, he said simply. Not after. Not when it's safe. Just come back. Because whatever this is between us, it's worth fighting for. Zara nodded.
Couldn't speak.
Couldn't promise. Could only hope that somehow, against every odd and every instinct, she'd survive long enough to find out what worth fighting for actually meant. She disappeared into the Seoul night, a ghost once more. But this time, she wasn't running from her past. She was running toward a future where monsters could become human again, where weapons could choose peace, where a woman who'd spent 15 years fighting everyone could finally fight for someone. The siege was over, but Zara Williams's war had just begun. And this time, she wasn't fighting alone. 3 months after the siege of the Serpent's Den, Seoul's underworld whispered a new legend. They spoke of 15 assassins who came for a Mafia boss and left in body bags, alive but broken. They spoke of a black woman who moved through darkness like death itself wore combat boots. They spoke of Kang Min-jun, the boss who survived the impossible by hiring the last person anyone expected. But legends only tell part of the story. The truth was messier. More complicated. More human. After the authorities cleared the scene, after the questions, the investigations, the carefully constructed lies that protected everyone involved, Min-jun stood in the ruins of his compound and made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He chose legitimacy. Not the fake legitimacy of shell corporations and money laundering. Real legitimacy. He used his resources to transform the Black Serpent Syndicate from a criminal empire into something that could survive daylight. Construction companies became clean. Shipping routes became transparent. The nightclub stayed, but the backroom deals disappeared. You're really doing it, Ji-won said, watching her brother sign papers that would dissolve half his criminal operations. Zara changed you. Zara reminded me, Min-jun corrected. Reminded me that power built on fear eventually collapses under its own weight. That empires built on blood drown their builders. That maybe, just maybe, there's a different way to matter in this world. Ji-won smiled. She's going to come back, you know. When she's ready. When she's dealt with her demons. And if she doesn't, then you'll have built something worth her sacrifice. Either way, you win. But Min-jun didn't feel like he was winning. He felt like he was waiting. Every day. Every night. Scanning shadows for a ghost who might never return. Tae-yong and the other detained security personnel faced justice. Not Min-jun's street justice, but actual courts, actual trials. Evidence of their communications with Brentwood's network was overwhelming. Some cooperated. Some didn't. All of them learned that betrayal has consequences beyond bullets and blood. The 15 captured assassins told a different story. Most were mercenaries, hired for cash, no loyalty to Brentwood beyond the paycheck. But 3, the final 3 who'd tried to bomb the compound, they were true believers. Former military. Former Black Ops. Men who'd served under Brentwood and saw Zara Williams as a traitor who needed to be erased. During interrogation, one of them revealed something that made Min-jun's blood run cold. Colonel Brentwood didn't send us to kill you, the man said, face bruised from questioning. We were sent to force her hand, to make her reveal herself, to prove she's still the weapon he created. Every assassin she neutralized, every trap she set, every brutal efficiency she displayed, it was all evidence for his case. What case? That soldiers like Zara Williams can't be reformed, can't be trusted in civilian life. That once you create a weapon, it stays a weapon. He's building files, documentation, proof that his methods work, that his soldiers are too dangerous to ever be free. Your siege wasn't about killing you. It was about proving a point. Min-jun understood then. The real trap wasn't the assassins or the bomb. It was Zara herself. Every violent act, even in defense, reinforced Brentwood's narrative. Every life she saved came at the cost of proving she was exactly what he'd trained her to be, a perfect killer. Meanwhile, somewhere in the shadows between Seoul and nowhere, Zara Williams hunted the hunter. She'd spent 3 months tracking Brentwood's network, following money trails, intercepting communications, taking down his operations one by one. Not with the brutal efficiency of her past, but with something colder.
Strategic. Calculated.
She wasn't just stopping him. She was dismantling everything he'd built. Every black ops cell. Every off-books operation. Every illegal order disguised as patriotism. Marcus, her former teammate who'd provided air support during the siege, joined her. Then another former operator. Then 3 more. Slowly, quietly, the weapons Brentwood had created turned against him. He's in Manila, Marcus reported during a secure call, coordinating with Philippine intelligence on a new program, building the next generation of ghosts. Then, that's where we end this, Zara said. You sure you're ready? Once we move on him, there's no going back. No more hiding. You'll be exposed. Vulnerable. Zara thought about Min-jun, about G1, about 16 people who'd trusted her to keep them alive, about a life she could maybe, possibly build if she survived one more mission. I'm ready. Let's bring him home. The operation in Manila lasted 48 hours. No violence. No bloodshed. Just evidence. Carefully compiled files documenting every illegal order, every unauthorized operation, every crime Brentwood had committed in the name of national security. They delivered it to every oversight committee, every inspector general, every journalist who'd spent years trying to expose black ops corruption. Colonel Marcus Brentwood was arrested 3 days later, not by soldiers, not by operators, but by federal marshals executing warrants for war crimes, conspiracy, and violations so numerous they filled 17 pages. The weapon he'd created had finally turned against him, not through violence, but through truth. When the news broke, Min-jun was in a business meeting, legitimate business, discussing construction contracts and zoning permits, the kind of boring legal work that would have bored him to death 6 months ago. Now it felt like freedom. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It's done. Coming home.
Z.
Min-jun excused himself from the meeting, walked to his office window, stared out at Seoul's skyline, and allowed himself something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. 2 weeks later, Zara Williams walked through the rebuilt entrance of the Serpent's Denver. No longer a fortress. Now, just a very secure home for a very careful man. Min-jun was waiting in the garden. The koi pond had been restored, the grounds replanted, evidence of the siege erased everywhere except in memory. You came back, he said. I promised I would. They stood there, 2 people who'd survived the impossible, trying to figure out what came next. Trying to navigate a world where weapons could choose peace, where monsters could become human again, where love was terrifying precisely because it mattered. I'm not good at this, Zara admitted. The normal life thing. The not fighting for survival thing. I don't know how to be anything except what they made me. Then we'll figure it out together. Min-jun stepped closer. Because I'm not good at it either. I've spent my whole life building walls and burning bridges. Maybe it's time we both learned how to build something different. Like what? Like a life that doesn't require bodyguards or bomb shelters. Like a future where we're more than our worst moments. Like a story that ends differently than either of us expected. Zara smiled, a real smile, not the predator's grin or the warrior's mask. That sounds terrifying. It sounds perfect. Ji-won found them an hour later, sitting by the koi pond, just talking. No weapons. No threats. Just 2 people learning how to be human again. So she stayed, Ji-won observed, joining them on the bench. I stayed, Zara confirmed. At least for now. At least until I figure out what comes next. What do you want to come next? It was the question Zara had been avoiding for 3 years. The question that had no easy answer. Because wanting something meant risking loss. Meant vulnerability. Meant allowing herself to be more than the weapon they'd created. I want to teach, Zara said finally. Self-defense. Not the black ops stuff. Not the killing. But how to protect yourself. How to survive. How to turn fear into power. I want to take what they made me and transform it into something that helps instead of hurts. Min-jun nodded. I can make that happen. Resources. Facilities. Whatever you need. I need to do it my way. No shortcuts. No criminal connections.
Clean.
Legal. Real. Then, that's what we'll build. Together. The word hung in the air. Together. A promise. A possibility. A future neither of them had imagined 6 months ago when a desperate mafia boss hired an unexpected bodyguard. So, what's the lesson here? What can we take from Zara and Min-jun's story? Maybe it's this: we're all more than our worst moments. More than the things life forced us to become. More than the weapons others tried to make us. Zara could have stayed a ghost. Could have kept running. Could have let violence define her forever. Instead, she chose something harder. She chose transformation. Min-jun could have stayed the ruthless boss. Could have kept building his empire on fear and blood. Instead, he chose something riskier.
He chose change.
Both of them learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust the person everyone else underestimates. Sometimes strength isn't about fighting harder. It's about knowing when to stop fighting and start building. And sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one who refuses to be defined by what others expect. Have you ever been underestimated? Ever been dismissed because of how you look, where you're from, or who people assume you are? Drop your story in the comments. Share the moment you proved them wrong. Because those stories matter. Those stories change narratives. Those stories remind us that legends aren't born. They're made by people who refuse to accept limitations. If this story moved you, hit that like button. If you want more stories about people who defy expectations and rewrite their destinies, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because next week, we're diving into another incredible tale. This one about a homeless veteran who saved an entire hospital from a terrorist attack with nothing but his training and his will to protect. You won't want to miss it. To everyone who stayed until the end, thank you. Thank you for investing 2 hours in this journey. Thank you for believing that stories about unexpected heroes matter. Thank you for being part of a community that celebrates strength in all its forms. Remember, the most powerful weapon you have isn't violence. It's choice. The choice to be better. To build instead of destroy. To love instead of fear. Zara Williams chose to stop being a weapon and start being human. Kang Min-jun chose to transform his empire from criminal to legitimate. What will you choose? The answer to that question determines not just your story, but the legacy you leave behind. Until next time, stay strong, stay curious, and never let anyone tell you what you're capable of. Because the world is full of people waiting to underestimate you. Prove them wrong.